Hey guys, it's me, Cruz, and today we'll be discussing the perils of mercury as is shown in this PowerPoint. Mercury, or Hg, is an element found here on Earth, unique in that it's one of the only elements that takes the form of a liquid at room temperature. Commonly used in a number of appliances such as batteries and as an electrode in catalysis and in electrical switches. Mercury does have its uses sometimes, although once exposed to the environment, nothing good can come from that. Mercury rarely occurs naturally anywhere else other than mineral ores. Mercury can be an industrial waste that is produced from the manufacture of certain products and as a waste product of burning coal. Because of a lot of cases in which emissions and industrial waste dumping go unchecked, there's a large amount of mercury being released into the air and the water of the environment. So how does it get into the environment in the first place? Well, first of all, one must understand that a tiny amount of mercury won't cause too much harm to anyone. Although once it accumulates through biomagnification, it really becomes a problem. Here's how biomagnification works. Let's say someone has been spilling mercury into a bay, for instance. In the bay, there is a certain kind of bacteria that is able to process mercury into another form called methylmercury, which is the kind of mercury that is able to accumulate in the tissues of organisms, such as fish. This bacteria may then be consumed by other organisms, or it can excrete the methylmercury to the water, where it's absorbed by small organisms such as plankton and algae, which are then consumed by small fish, and those are consumed by larger fish, and so on. The problem with methylmercury is that it takes a rather long time to get rid of, and so these aquatic organisms are consuming it faster than they can eliminate it from their bodies. This process explains why a lot of the big fish of the sea have the highest levels of mercury in their bodies. When ingested, mercury will make its way through the digestive system and into the small intestine, from which it is then transported to the liver. Methylmercury can then go through two paths from there: bile or blood. Only small quantities are actually found in bile, thus most of the methylmercury enters the bloodstream and makes its way around the body. Methylmercury creates all sorts of problems ranging from skin irritation to chromosomal damage, although the most innocuous effects transpire in the nervous system. Methylmercury can severely impair your intellectual abilities and fine motor skills and can induce memory loss in some cases. Fetuses developing in the womb are extremely sensitive to methylmercury exposure and will show signs of cerebral palsy and possible blindness at birth. As a child grows, their spatial and motor skills will be impaired, along with a myriad of other growth problems. Therefore, pregnant women are discouraged from eating fish that are known to have unsafe levels of mercury. As stated earlier, mercury becomes increasingly concentrated as the food chain progresses. So halibut, for example, contain higher levels of mercury than salmon, which in turn has higher levels of it than oysters and so on. For birds that consume copious amounts of fish every day as part of their diet, methylmercury can pose a serious risk. Developing birds can be affected by deformities and may have their chromosomes damaged. The same goes for other animals whose main diet consists of fish, as many abnormalities can be found in developing animals too. One of the most significant cases of methylmercury poisoning and its devastating effects occurred in Minamata Bay, Japan. Once a prosperous industrial town that was heavily reliant on fish for food, Minamata has since been forever changed because of the incident. Around 1930, the Chiso Corporation, a company specializing in many products from fertilizers to plastics, began dumping its waste produced from manufacturing acetaldehyde into the bay. Chiso failed to inform the residents of such activities, so the residents went about their daily lives as if nothing were happening. Eventually, dead fish began to float up to the surface, and there were some instances where cats would act erratically and often jump into the bay and drown, which were dismissed by the residents as cat suicides. The disease emerged in humans during the early 1950s, albeit spontaneously and without much attention. People began to stumble often or would have difficulty doing simple tasks like writing or dressing themselves. As the decade progressed, the symptoms became steadily more pronounced, along with the emergence of paralysis and victims suffering from contorted bodies. By 1956, epidemiological researchers concluded that the side effects were a result of heavy metal poisoning. A few months later, there was a spike in newborn babies that displayed similar symptoms as well. They were born with irreversible brain damage and severe physical disabilities. Many of these children suffered from convulsions, which ultimately proved fatal. So what's being done to prevent mercury poisoning? As with anything else, you gotta make sure you raise awareness of a problem before you're able to fully find a solution to it. By raising public awareness on the issue of hand, taking preventive measures to reduce the chances of the issue happening again, and by trying to repair the damage that's already been caused, one can find a solution to decreasing the chances of mercury pollution happening again or in greater scale. In this case, the ingestion of animals that could potentially be contaminated with mercury is discouraged. Many countries have been taking steps into preventing the dumping of industrial waste into bodies of water by passing laws prohibiting the act of related acts. Power companies have also added equipment that eliminated mercury out of their exhaust gases produced from burning coal. There's also pressure on power companies to utilize coal that produces lower levels of mercury. There are still plenty of fish that contain small traces of methylmercury, thus discouraging consuming fish that are known to carry hazardous amounts of it. Additionally, it is stressed that when disposing of products that contain mercury, one must take the right steps to recycle to avoid it getting into the environment. Special landfills are created to store these wastes safely. All in all, mercury is a dangerous substance when released into the environment. Exposure to it can cause serious damage in humans and animals, and the damage is usually irreversible and often fatal. By taking the correct steps in preventing and reducing the release of mercury into the environment, the world can be a slightly better place. Thanks for watching.